6 a.m. I'm filming now the hexahedron cluster that's on top of those trees. You can see that there are smaller clusters next to the large one. That thing's been there for about, I think it's the 4th month now. And it's making the kind of clusters you see on the right side of it. On your right, that is, looking at the video from your point of view. It's on your right and it's on the left side of that cluster. And those smaller clusters, it's making them, and then they go on and make more clusters when they get large enough, as large as that one. So they've been making more and more clusters all over the city of Toronto. That's Toronto, Canada. And you can see all the numbers of organisms that are in the air, just zillions of them, just unimaginable numbers of these organisms. They're all over, not just there, but throughout the atmosphere and the air all around Toronto, the vicinity. I've gone through all of Canada. It's the same everywhere, and I assume it's the same all over the planet. And all these things are in the air. They're small enough that you can breed them in, but they can cluster together into large clusters like that, or much larger clusters when they're up in the air, high off the ground, and especially up in the upper atmosphere they can get very large. There is no limit to the size of a cluster. It all depends how many organisms join in to form a cluster. So since there are so many of them, as you can see on your screen, there is no limit to how large a cluster can be out in space. These things can form clusters as large as planets, maybe even as large as stars. There's no limit to them at all. And they're intelligent, and they can do a lot of things. I've been filming them for about 2 years, and I've seen them do all kinds of things in 2 years. And they are intelligent. They're a hexahedron cluster. You can tell that the hexahedron cluster, the large cluster, is a hexahedron shape. And these are all in the 3rd dimension. They're no longer in a parallel dimension. They're now in the 3rd dimension, and they've been in the 3rd dimension for at least the last year, or around approximately about a year. I was sure of it maybe 9 months ago, because for the first couple of months I wasn't sure that they were in our dimension, and until I went and checked out the situation on the ground and everything myself, I couldn't be sure. But right now I'm positive that they are all in the 3rd dimension, and they have saturated our dimension and are overlaying our dimension with all of these entities. There are just countless numbers of them. The numbers are unimaginable. I've never seen so many organisms in my entire life as I see these things, how many there are. Now they are, as I said, intelligent. They are capable of doing many strange things. One of them is to materialize in the matter state from the state of plasma that they are in now. They can also turn into just light and travel at the speed of light. When they're in a plasma state, they go near the speed of light, and when they're in a material state, then they don't go as fast, but they can go faster than anything else we have on this planet. So they can go probably Mach 10 or more than that. I've seen them go hypersonic many times to the point where they just vanish. That's how fast they're going. So I don't know if they make a jump at that point and go into a wormhole, or just outright leave our dimension through a wormhole. Either they go somewhere else in our galaxy, or even in our universe, in the space-time sense, or else they just jump right into another dimension. And it doesn't have to be the dimension that they came from, because they are fully interdimensional and can travel in and through many dimensions. They can go in and out as they do in ours, and they could be parallel with a dimension, or they can just have a free way of going in and out anytime they want. So that gives them many advantages over us, and it certainly gives them a free hand to do whatever they want, because if they don't want to be seen, they just leave our dimension, and they can be parallel to our dimension and be right next to us, and we just don't see them. But as you can tell, there are a lot of organisms in the air. I'm just going to go up. These are supposed to be trees, and what's happening now is like these organisms are just going to form the trees, because last evening as the sun went down, these organisms had left the area of the trees, and half the trees were disappeared. And if I had come out a little earlier, I would have been able to catch them coming back. They're still coming back now, and you can see that there's a lot of clusters in the trees all over, just one next to the other. There's just trillions upon trillions upon trillions of these things, and this is just one small area. Now imagine how many of them are in the atmosphere, on the ground, and in the water. They're in the water as well, and they can be anywhere on this planet. They're all over this planet. They're not just anywhere, they're everywhere on this planet. All those trees are them. There are no trees. It's all them. Every tree is them. The trees are a hologram. If you go close to the trees, you see nothing but them. They're just wall to wall, these organisms. And when they decluster into smaller units, which are also clusters just at a smaller level, they could be subatomic, and we breathe them in. So they're already inside of us. There's no way to get around that point or fact. They're already inside of us, and there's not much we can do. So they can do whatever they like, it seems like. And nobody's done anything that I've seen to even come and investigate this matter, let alone to stop them. I don't know if they can be stopped, but no one has even tried. And I've notified people, and I have a channel. I have 1,400 videos plus on my channel, and lots of people have seen them. And I'm very surprised that no one has acted upon it, that could have. And it's unfortunate, because these things are here and they're not going to go away, and their agenda is not the same as the human agenda. They are not human, and they are not interested in humans. Their agenda is totally different. They want this planet, and they want it for themselves, and we're just in their way. So they're going to do everything possible to get rid of us. And if you don't believe that, then you're still sleeping and you haven't woken up. So it's time to wake up or face the consequences. I'm going to back up and show you a little wider shot. You can just see that all the trees, if I back up some more, every tree there is just them. And if I look further, look at this, all the trees, it's all them. Doesn't matter what tree I point to, even the atmosphere is all them. Look at all the clusters in the trees. Look at that. Just every single tree. And those clusters are active. They're not as active now as they were just a half hour ago, but all night they were active. And what they do is they just accelerate all the other particles around and maintain their speed. The thing about these entities is they're a higher frequency and harmonics, so they need to maintain their speed to keep that higher frequency. So even though they can stand still like that on a tree, they're never really still. They just look like they're still, but they're always vibrating at a higher frequency. And I can slow, or you can slow the video down if you download it. Once I put it on my channel, you can download it and slow it down yourself, and you can hear them. They make all kinds of noise, and they have communications. Their communications are binary. All their communication is binary. And you can see all those clusters just on that one tree alone. That's billions of them, just on that one tree alone. Just like I said, they could be smaller than an atom. Subatomic. Even smaller than subatomic particles. That's how small these things can be. But they're always a cluster, and it's a hexahedron cluster. You just go over here. I can see them without even zooming in. I can even see them with the naked eye. That's how many clusters there are nowadays. I can see them with just the naked eye. I don't even have to zoom in. Look, if you just look from far away, you can tell where the clusters are. You can just see them in the trees. And this one, look. And there's one right there. There's more here. And there's big clusters all over. Look at all of them. Look how many. So those are partially active clusters. They're in a slower mode because they've been up in the sky all night, creating either the moon hologram or the stars or just our entire sky, because there's so many of them. They've cocooned us in, and all the sky that you see is nothing but them. Everything else is a hologram. If you could really tell how many, if you could really see how many there are, you would see that the entire sky is just them. There is no sky. Okay, so if you don't believe that, I don't know how to convince you, but I know what I'm talking about. There's just no sky, and it's just them. I'm just showing you the clusters here. Look how many. But look how many of those things are in the air. Look at this thing. How big that's full of clusters, that tree. Look at that. It's nothing but clusters. The entire tree is just clusters. Look how many there are. That's, I don't know what the number would be for that. How many clusters that is. Look at that, and that one too. All over. Those things are just all over. And like I said, most of the trees are not real trees anymore. It's just them. They've taken the place of trees because they can manifest themselves by a process of transformation. They can transform from an energy state like plasma, like this one. They can transform into a tree, or a rock, or a person, or any other thing that we normally see around us, because that's what they do. They blend right in, and then we don't know that it's them. So being ignorant is not going to save us, because ignorance is no excuse, especially not for these things, because they're not interested. Look at all those entities. Those are all entities. They come in black, they come in white, and they come in a neutral sort of color that's sometimes pinkish, sometimes light brown like that, depending on how much light there is in the environment. But at night they can shine many different colors. They glow. And those are the orbs. That's what those things are. And I hear from a lot of people how nice these things are. Well, these nice things have eaten all the trees around here, and look at all the clusters that they have. Let's see over here. Look, those are supposed to be green new leaves because it's spring, but it's all them. They've just changed color. Okay? Everything you see around you is an illusion, and these are not real trees. These are organisms, and intelligent, very highly intelligent organisms as well. Look at the branches. Does that look like a branch to you? I'm just going to leave it there for a minute. Right there. Let me just tighten this thing so it stays. Just keep watching that branch, or a couple of those branches. Just watch them dissolve and change. Look at how those branches are changing. Those are what you call trees. There's not a tree in there. In this entire sector of Toronto, or any other sector of Toronto, there is not one real tree. All the real trees have been consumed for their energy, and they're even tapping in an electric supply by tapping in on the electric cables that run around this city. They're using our entire electric grid for their own purposes and power. Just look at this. That big branch right there in the middle. Just keep watching it. You'll see it dissolve, you'll see it form, you'll see it change shape. That's because all those organisms are moving around at a very high vibrational level and velocity. Their velocity is unimaginable. I have to slow the video down up to like 6 times to, you know, capture some of them just moving around in place sometimes. I normally use the Windows Movie Maker when I make these videos because I'm used to it and it's the easiest one for me to use. But it's a whole big long process and everything. Just because now the new cameras, they don't even download into that program, and I have to first make a video, then turn it into the 480 format on the Windows Movie Maker from high definition. I'm shooting right now in high definition because all my cameras that I purchased recently are all high definition. So I have to rechange it to 480. It takes days to load up high definition video, and 480 even takes hours and hours, but at least it's not days, because I don't have time to just sit around and wait for YouTube to upload my 10-minute video, and so I have to change it to 480 to make it shorter. But notice how that branch just dissolved right there in front of your eyes. Watch, it'll dissolve completely. What's happening, the reason why that looks like it's dissolving is because now the white organisms that were in the air all night are coming down on the trees, and now they're covering up the black organisms that pretend to be branches. And the other organisms that were pinkish or whatever color they happen to choose to be, either brownish or pinkish, and they're all transparent, all of them. They're turning into green color so that they look like leaves. So I don't know how come people don't see all of this going on. I see it without the camera or anything else. I don't know why other people can't see it. Maybe I'm just different, but if that's the case, maybe you should be different and try to see this, because look how the trees just change and disappear and do whatever they want. That's because those aren't really trees. I mean, if those things want to grab you and do something to you, they can, because you don't even have to be near their tree. They can travel at the speed of light, and there's no way of running away from these things. I mean, we're totally at their mercy because there's nothing we can do, and no one is even trying to do anything. I've put on 1,400 videos and more, and no one has even responded, let alone done something. And they're tapping into our electric power. It's costing everyone money. I mean, we all pay taxes, we all pay for our electricity, and these things are getting it for free. And the purpose they're going to use that power for is to get rid of us. So people got to start waking up and realizing what's really going on this planet. This is a big plan, and it's not just a little thing. It's not just a few organisms from space. This is zillions of organisms from space. Their entire dimension, they've brought their entire dimension into ours. That's a big thing, because they can live in both dimensions, and we can only live in this one, and they're changing this one. So we'll not be able to exist when they do change it finally to another dimension. That'll be the end for us. All of us. Money will not save the day. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how much you can gold you can buy, or any other precious metal or diamonds or anything else. There is nothing that will buy you safety and safe passage. These things just don't care about anyone, and they're not interested in you as an individual or as a species. They're not interested in us. Look at all those clusters. That whole tree there is a cluster. It's just them. Look at all of them. They're just everywhere. Doesn't matter where I point this thing. They're just all over. Look at that. They're just glued on those trees for the moment. And look at how many clusters that is. Just wall-to-wall clusters. Now the reason why they look more toned down and they're not shining as bright is because the sun is out. And it's too bright to see the glow. But, you know, make no mistake, they're in a plasma state right there, and they're glowing. And the reason why the trees haven't gone on fire from all that heat is because the trees are dim. The trees are dim. They're not real trees. Look at that right there. Let's see what happens to that branch. Just look at how many organisms are there. Just watch that branch for a few seconds. Look at all the movement. That's their velocity, and that's their harmonics. Just watch that branch. It'll vanish. Now that's a big branch. Supposedly. It's supposed to be a big branch. Just watch it as it vanishes. I filmed the moon the other day, the moon hologram the other day, because they composed the moon hologram. They are what make up the moon hologram, because there is no moon anymore. It's blown up. They blew it up in 2009, in December. So they just go up, make up the moon hologram, and then the other day, like last week or something, I filmed the moon hologram just disintegrate, because they disassembled, and it was no longer a moon hologram. So the moon just went off from the sky, and there was no more moon, because they decided, you know, that was it. So this is the kind of power they have over us. They can make the moon, or the image of the moon, and then they can disassemble and make it disappear. So this is what your life is dependent on. These things, their will and their agenda. That's what your life depends on right now on this planet. This is no longer our planet. And whoever tells you that it is full of it. They don't know what they're talking about. Look at those. Look at the clusters and those. Look at this cluster. Wow. That's a real big one. Whoa, look at the size of that one. That's a big cluster right there. Wow. See, and it doesn't have to glow. It does not have to glow. Look at the size of that thing. Look at the size. Look at the size of that cluster. I'm just gonna back up. Those trees are like 50, 60 feet tall. Look at the size of the trees. They're bigger than the ferns, than the evergreens. Just look at all those organisms. Look at this cluster, the size of it. That's like at least 100 feet in diameter, that cluster. Maybe more than 100 feet. It's covering a bunch of trees. Look at that. That's a big one. Yeah, that's covering like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 trees. That's the size of that cluster. It's covering like a good portion of 5 or 6 trees. Look at the size of that thing. Look. That's like a big cocoon for them. They go through stages like insects. They may be insects. I don't exactly know what they are. Whatever they are, they're really very smart. And they didn't come here to play around. They came to take this planet, and they're doing it. And the longer we procrastinate, the worse off we'll be. They'll wipe us all out. Look at all those. Those are all cocoons, but they're all clustered together. Just look at the size of that thing. That's a real big one, even for me, and I see them every day. That's a huge one. I don't know how many trillions of these entities are in that one. Just one cluster. That whole clump of trees there. I'll just get it in the picture. Okay. The whole screen. There's just some evergreens, and it's hard to see. But even them, they're part of it. So that whole clump of trees is one huge cluster. Whatever is right there in the frame, that's one huge cluster. And I'll show you that even the evergreens, look at them. It's just harder to see them on the evergreens. But even the evergreens are them. And look at the size of that cluster. That is amazing. They're just doing it right out in the open. And I don't know why people don't see them. Like, I don't even need a camera to see them. I can just spot them immediately, anywhere, not just on trees. So I don't understand why other people can't see them, but boy, they're just all over, and they're just doing it without any care about whether they're seen or not seen. They're so sure of themselves. Look at this. All the trees. Look at that. They have a whole factory there going. They're producing energy. Right there. That's a power plant for them. It feeds power to all the ones that are at rest, but their at rest is moving many cycles per second. That's their rest. They are never at rest. They move at a high vibrations level and harmonic, many cycles per second. And when they really speed it up, it could be infinitely fast. It can't be infinitely slow, but it can be infinitely fast. But they're always maintaining a high vibrations level. The only way I know how to get these things is by creating an overcharge of an electromagnetic pulse and putting in a freak wave into their vibration cycle, and thereby upsetting the whole bunch of them all at once. Because if you put in a high frequency, super high frequency wave that's not what the wave they're on, then you can, it's called a freak wave, and then you can upset them and just put them out of action, or at least stun them. Either that, or you have to use a very low frequency wave, and that's way below their frequency level. And that's the only two ways I know that they can be stopped. Because shooting at them or anything like that, it's not going to do anything. And these things, I'm sure, have had wars with many species that they've destroyed. They probably destroyed every other species that maybe used to live in our solar system, or in this part of the universe. Who knows? But right now they're throughout our solar system, and they're all over this area of the galaxy. This is their new territory that they've either come back to, or they've been here and just out of sight, but now they're here and they're gonna stay, because they've just blended in their entire dimension into ours, and they're almost ready to strike. I mean, things look pretty grim to me. Just look at that. That's just one tree. Notice how the tree is dead everywhere they are. That's from the, if that's a tree at all, that's from the heat. But that's no longer a tree. That tree has been transformed. That is no longer a tree. You can even see the smaller clusters there on the bottom right. There's two little dots looking things, but they're not dots. That's just because I'm far away. They're not dots at all. It's like a sea of entities. See, they're glowing and everything. That means they're active. Those active clusters act like particle accelerators. They accelerate all those microscopic little particles at a super fast speed, counterclockwise, in a cluster-like formation. And the whole area here, from the ground to the top of the atmosphere, is full of these things. And if you breathe air, you can't help but breathe them in. Or drink water, you can't help but drink them in. Or if you eat food, they're on food of all sorts too. Everything has been compromised. Just look at how many entities that is. And look how much energy that's putting out. I mean, this is daylight and it's sunny right now. And just look at the energy level. I mean, you ever see a tree glow before? Take a look. Here's one glowing right now. They're all glowing. It's just that some are more visible than others. I'm shooting this one that's in the shade a little bit, but not much. It's just barely in the shade, but still it's easier to see than in direct sunlight. But even in direct sunlight, where the top of the picture is, you can still see that they're glowing. And that's not a reflection, that's a glow. That's energy that they're producing themselves just by the sheer velocity of their counterclockwise rotations around the axis of the cluster. And that's a plasma state. They go through different plasma states. Some are stronger plasma states than others. Some are partial plasma states. And they can turn from that into a state of material existence in a matter like a fraction of a second, and then back into energy, and can change dimensions that fast, or go in time back and forth as fast, or go from here to the center of the galaxy or to the other side of it at the speed of light even faster. These things use black holes to travel faster than the speed of light. They use the gravitational black hole to increase velocity past the speed of light. Now this is what we're facing. If you want to be stupid and not believe me, that's your problem. But I'm telling you what's going on and how these things operate. So I hope you pay attention. Maybe you can learn something about these things. I've spent more than 2 years, day and night, watching these things, watching how they operate, and taking notes, mental notes. I don't need to write things down. I have a very good memory. So I've been taking a lot of mental notes, and I know a lot about these things, more than they think I know. But they're also capable of telepathic either communication or reading minds, and telepathic control of one's will. They can make you do what they want if you don't have a strong will and a strong mental capacity. So these things are very dangerous. They're not your ordinary organism. This is a super predator. That's what these things are. They're a cosmic super predator, because they have all the capacity, all the qualities, and they have all the means technologically of doing these things. So there's not very much really that can be done, but we should have at least tried, not just give it up without even an effort. I mean, we're giving up our entire planet and our entire species. We're handing it over on a platter without even an attempt to save ourselves. That's what I can't understand. How can we be like that? Those look like insect forms right there. The green one on top, in the middle, and then the white one right next to it on an angle from the left-hand corner to the middle. Those look like insects, and they may be insects. Like I said, I don't know exactly what type of species this is, but they behave like insects. Their entire social structure is insect-like, like a bee or an ant colony. At one point I thought they were locusts, because when they fly up in the sky, they cover the entire sky just like locusts. except that these things have all these other capacities. They can materialize, dematerialize, they can form clusters, dissolve them, just disintegrate into particles. They can glow, all kinds of things like that. So, I mean, for all I know, they could be carrying radioactivity because they do come from space. I used to take pictures of them on the moon while there was still a moon. And then I took pictures of them making the moon hologram and dissolving the moon hologram. So I've taken a lot of pictures of them in different states of their existence and filming different things that they can do and that they do. So the black ones, I think, are the older entities, and the other ones are just juveniles, especially the white ones. They're like juveniles. And then there's another stage, and that's the other colored ones that are transparent, and then the black ones are like the adults. But you can see they look somewhat like locust. I can even see legs and things. Maybe it's just my imagination. Many bugs have legs, but I don't know. For some reason, I always had the impression that they were like locust, but I don't know that for sure. But I know that all their behavior is an insect type behavior, just like an insect colony, and they go through all the 4 stages of development like insects do. They have all the stages. They may even have more stages. But being that they have the ability to cluster, being that they're intelligent, and being that they can do all these other things like go at the speed of light or faster and move back and forth in dimensions and in time, that means these are not ordinary insects, that's for sure. And it's really difficult to say what they are because I've never seen anything like it, and I have nothing to compare them to. Look at all those black entities. You can really see them good right there. I'll just leave it there for a minute so you can take a good look. And look at all the white ones right next to them. And look at all the other ones that are green. And just an amazing number of them. That whole tree is just them. And that's just one tree. This is just one tree in Toronto. There are hundreds of thousands of trees in Toronto. We have all these large parks and everything, and all the area around us, around this city is all trees. Just look at those things. Does that look like a tree? Does that look like a tree there? Look. All the birds are like that too. They're all full of orbs. Just look at that. Look at that. Now you see different colors. That's what I wanted to find. You see the red ones there. You see the glowing ones. You see the green ones. You see the black ones. You see the tan ones, and you see the pink ones right there in one picture. And they're telepathic. They know exactly what I'm saying. and what I'm doing. They know they're being filmed. Watch this tree now try and move out of the way. I'll just leave it here. Let's see if it does it. Usually they try and move the whole thing out of the way. Lately though, it's just been too many of them. And just study this and see. See, they don't even move out of their way anymore. That's how many of them there are. They're so sure of themselves. Now they don't need to move out of their way. They have nowhere to go anyway. There's so many. They're wall to wall. So it doesn't matter where they move, because anywhere I move the camera, they're there. Wow, there's a glowing one right there. That's a particle accelerator right there. That one. I'm sure you can see orbs rotating around that glowing nucleus counterclockwise, and I can even see it, and I'm looking at like a 2-inch screen. Look at all those trees, they're all just done. All the trees. There are no trees left. They've just eaten them all and converted them to energy. And that's what they're going to do with everything here in rocks. They're going to eat this whole planet. Just look at all of them. We definitely have to do something. If we don't do something soon, like next week, it's going to be too late to do anything. Then don't bother even trying. If nothing happens by next week, we can forget about it. And we can just wait for them to come for us and turn us into energy. Just look at all of them. Those are all active clusters. They're just accelerating all the other ones around and around. Look at that. If those were trees, they would have been, the whole area would have been on fire. But what they're doing is just surrounding that glowing cluster area with the ones that don't glow. And they can take the heat, because the heat is energy for them. That's how they convert the motion and the velocity into energy. And the energy, there's so much of it, and so much motion and so much velocity, that the cluster nucleus glows because of so much heat, because it's turned into plasma. So that's what the way they make plasma. And if they increase the energy level, they become light. They are no longer plasma. They become pure energy. I mean, just take a look at that. That should tell you how much time we have. We don't have any time. Time's been up right after I started realizing what was going on, and that was a year ago. That was a year ago that I realized what was really going on, and the extent of it, and what the agenda was. These things are controlling people that are running everything. And they're turning them into them. And they're going to turn us into them, just like those trees. that used to be trees. We're gonna be a hologram. There won't be any real people left. I mean, just get a load of that. It's an urgent matter. If you're watching and you can do something about this, you better start doing something now, because waiting any longer is suicide. Just check out the power those things are putting out. When you add all that energy and all that heat and all that power being put out into the atmosphere, you're going to have global warming in no time at all. And that ice is going to melt much sooner than you think. It'll flood the whole planet and drown everybody. Going underground is not a safe place to be. When the water comes, you'll never be able to come out. Just look at all of those. Those are all active clusters, and their primary function is to accelerate the rest of the particles. As they make more, they need more energy. Before, even a few months ago, you used to see a cluster glow here and there, then it was more, then it was more, and it was at an exponential rise. They just kept increasing exponentially how many clusters were glowing, and that told me that this population had an explosion. And they're reproducing right here on Earth. That's how comfortable they are. They are not bringing these things in anymore. They are making them here, on Earth, in our dimension, and in our time. This is our space, and they've taken it. They had no challenges whatsoever. I mean, if we had to go out there with bows and arrows, it would have been worth it than just handing things over. Just keep looking at that and check out how it's glowing. Those are all at a high energy level. Anytime you see that many clusters all together and glowing, that means that their population levels have skyrocketed and they've saturated the entire Earth, not just the atmosphere, the water, the land, under the ground, in the air, and all the way up to space surrounding the Earth. They've cocooned us in here. If you could really see what's in the sky, you would understand. You would understand that there's nothing in the sky but these things, because we can't see the sky anymore. It's only them. All the stars you think you see, the moon you think you see, those are all holograms. There's nothing real anymore in the sky. It's just them. Look at the size of those. You can just see the movement, and you can see the energy. The way hexahedron clusters are formed is that it's a hexahedron, and the points are held together when they interlock with tetrahedron energy bonds, and it's electromagnetic energy bonds. And electromagnetic energy is what they convert into plasma energy, and that's what you're looking at right now. It's the conversion of electromagnetic energy into plasma energy. And it's all done through motion, velocity, counterclockwise rotation, and frequency, wave frequency. You just see the tremendous energy those things are giving off, and how the orbs are counter-rotating around their axis, around the cluster axis. That whole tree, right there, the whole branch was just them, right there. And there is no reflection, that's them. Check out this tree. You ever see a tree like that? They're all like that. They're all like that. Every one of them. As far as the eye can see, every one of them. Look at all those glowing right there. See if you can see any just in the air next to that make-believe branch, which is really nothing but them and a hologram, just made to a hologram made to look like a branch, but it's all composed of them. You can see how many are in the atmosphere. I can even see it on this little screen. They're just all over. And that's what's happening. They go right into the atmosphere. They're easier to see at dusk, early in the morning, just before the sun comes up. Right now there's too much light, and those things are transparent, so they're hard to see. And I'm sure you could see some anyway, because there's just too many to miss. So that's what's going on.